What was your wow, this really is a small world moment? First time traveling to Europe. I'm in Prague to play a Magic, the Gathering tournament. Full disclosure, I now work for Wizards of the Coast, the company that makes the game. Afterwards, some of my teammates and I from Iowa stick around to tourist a bit and see the sights. We switch to a hostel that is a lot cheaper and filled with kids our age. We opt for a room sleeping in the cheapest accommodations, which is a massive room with lots of folks on cots for like $15 a night. After we arrive, some new tourists grab the cots next to us. I start chatting with one and realize we're both Americans. I ask where she's from and am surprised to find she is also a Hawkeye like me, living in Iowa City, Iowa. We talk about what we like about the town and realize we live 2 blocks from one another, on Washington Street not far from the Pancheros downtown. It was wild to me to travel thousands of miles to a foreign country and bunk next to my neighbor from the same farm state totally by random happenstance. In 2004, I went to Canada to study. I was searching online to find some place to sleep, and then I bumped into a random guy on Craigslist or whatever a website it is. He was at the time looking for someone to share his apartment, so we talked, beginning with monthly charge then into life in Canada. As the conversation went on, we found out that we came from the same city, same school and same year. I was in classroom 1, he was in classroom 6, probably that is the reason we have never met in high school. Then I carried on, asking where he lived in our hometown. Turned out that we were living in the same condo plaza. My family was in Tower 3 Floor 4, his was in Tower 5 Floor 5. I immediately dialed my dad's mobile and told him my surprising finding. My dad was having lunch all by himself in a restaurant near our home. He went silent for a while, then replied me, "I think the family of the guy you talked about is just sitting a few meters from me. They are getting the call from their son apparently, and are looking and smiling at me." And hashtag X200B. Our 2 families had been close friends for a while. However, his dad made loads of fortune from family business a few years ago, and the entire family immigrate to Europe. We have lost contact with them since then. From the Midwest. Live in the Midwest. Went to Iceland just because. Ran into my sister's roommate on a glacier. My wife and I went to a study abroad program in college and visited Russia. On the way over there we had a day layover in Vienna, Austria. It was cold and rainy while seeing the sights, and we decided to go to a cafe to eat. While we were waiting to be served, we noticed a couple at the next table were wearing crimson-tied shirts. We asked if they were American and it turns out they were from the same town in Alabama we were from on vacation. I was in line for a TV show taping in Los Angeles, making small talk with the man next to me. Before long, we learned that we not only grew up in the same town 3,000 miles away, but only 2 houses apart. I remember when I was in high school, a couple with a baby moved into that house, but we never met them. He was a baby. 2 good ones, I'm English. I went hiking in the rainforest in Costa Rica. I bumped into a group walking in the other direction, and 2 girls in it recognized me from a message board and called me by name. We had, earlier that year, failed to organize a meeting in my hometown. My dad's is good too. He set up a philatelic bureau in the Caribbean in his 20s, and was often the only white person around. At a party he got chatting to the other white bloke, who reminisced about the city where my dad had been living. They talked for a while longer, narrowing down the location. The other guy called his wife over. "Dad's flat location? Yeah, I bought these jeans there. 22M, from Colombia and was going to school in the US, Montana to be exact. My sister, 20F, is also going to school in NC. My mom is a dentist who works with international patients often in her office in Medellin. She was attending a patient and making small talk prior to the procedure. Turns out the mom she was attending had a son in his early 20s that went to my school, and a daughter who just graduated from my sister's school. I honestly didn't believe her until I met her son in person. I have a few. When living in Alaska my family went on vacation to North Carolina. We went to get ice cream at a shop and inside was another family we knew from our hometown. No idea the other folks were going to a beach vacation at the same time. I heard from a friend that they had met a girl at a train station in France that knew me. One from when I lived in Alaska, the other from when I lived in Oregon. They were just 2 random Americans on post-high school travels that happened to know me. A friend from college was vacationing in England. He went out to a random pub. He heard some American accents so went to say hi. Oddly enough, they were all friends of mine from the same college, just from different groups that hadn't overlapped before. It's a small world. All the Dutch people that moved to Canada around the war know each other. I'll meet a complete stranger and as soon as I hear they have Dutch grandparents, I can guarantee we'll find a connection. I moved to Amsterdam and a total stranger told me they had family in Canada. Sure enough, I knew the family. Used Uber share and had a guy in the car that lived in my area. Lived in Tennessee and was traveling in Miami. Years ago I met a guy at a frat convention. Super chill dude. Only knew him by his nickname. 6 years later in the Middle East I hear someone say that nickname. I look over. It's him. Like 10,000 miles away. Trying to call a supply store. Last 4 digits of phone number 9609. Accidentally dialed 6906. The lady who answered was my aunt. Small town, small world. I grew up in a town just outside downtown Ottawa and in once did a hike nearly 4,000 kilometers away on Vancouver Island. This was a 5-day hike that could be walked both directions, so we passed many groups going the opposite direction on our journey. We probably passed about 100 groups over the course of our hike, most of which just got the classic "Hey, how you doing?" and that was it, but one group walked past us as we were having a snack at a lookout point. It being a lookout point caused them to stop too, and after a small amount of chit-chat we found out that we lived about 2 minutes away from each other. I was living in Japan and on vacation in Seoul, Korea. Sitting in the outdoor seating of a cafe, I hear familiar voice. Looking in that direction, I saw a girl I went to university with and hadn't seen in 6 or 7 years, who was also on vacation. I'll try to be succinct. This takes place pre-internet. While living in Japan, a coworker's wife was taking night classes. Her classmate happens to be from my hometown, _city_, not small, in Texas. Classmate gives her a little stack of newspapers from said city. He delivers them to me at work as a kind of "you might want these, or throw them away," whatever gesture. I open the first paper given to me by a coworker, from his wife, from a stranger, 3,000 miles from their point of origin, to see a half-page photo of my nephew dancing at a Greek festival. 2 years ago, I was working at a grocery store. This one was right on the beach, so we had tourists always coming in to fill up the rental. I asked a customer where she was visiting from. She said Oklahoma. I asked where in OK. She says Norman. I mentioned that my cousin used to live in Norman, but now he lives in OKC. As a shot in the dark, I mention where he works. She says that she works there too. Apparently my cousin is her IT guy. This happened in Florida with more of the same grocery store. They just happened to walk into mine. College roommate dated a girl during a semester. They broke up. A few years after graduation, he started dating another girl. He went back home with her for Thanksgiving dinner and his ex was there. They were sisters. Not me, but my parents, US based, were in Greece receiving a tour of the Acropolis. They started talking to another couple on the tour and realized they lived on the street directly behind our house back in the States. After basic training I get to my first duty station. I'm sitting in the chow hall. I look to my right. Someone I graduated high school was sitting 2 chairs from me. He was a mega douche, so that was the only time I ever saw him, said anything. My best friend and I both became friends with the same girl, we didn't know prior, on Erasmus exchange, 2 years apart and in 2 different countries. So when I was at a house party in Lisbon I met Erica and we started talking and she told me she had already done an Erasmus before in Norway. I was like cool, and told her I had a friend who had done as well an Erasmus there 2 years ago. Turns out they knew each other well. We were both like, what is the chance, amused. This year Erica ended up visiting us both at our hometown, which was quite surreal time. My brother's childhood friend was getting married and I was invited to their wedding. The bride's mother was my boss at my very first job. That was weird. This one isn't about me, but it blew my mind. A friend of mine recently got married. She posted a picture of her husband that his family took when they were in Disney as a kid. They were taking a picture of one of the characters. In the background was another character taking a picture with a different family. That different family? His wife when she was a kid. So I actually just found this out the other day. My dad was a chef at a gentleman's club in Philly for like 10 years, one of the greatest chefs on earth, BTW. A lot of shit went down there, specifically one night where a manager and a customer got into a fight. Long story short, the guy got hit so hard he fell on one of those concrete things in the parking spaces and died. So the other night I'm in Discord with a few of my friends and my one friend's dad. I was telling the story and it turns out my friend's dad was a regular at that club for a while, used to go in and spend like 10k in a night. He was actually there the night of that fight. While the situations surrounding it are a little grim to say the least, I just thought it was really crazy how this guy and my dad probably crossed paths and had no idea that their sons would be really good friends in the future.